my next guest, is out with a new book that goes into this Marxist agenda that is behind the Black Lives Matter. And I mean, we've seen this unfolding across the country. In fact, let me bring in my next guest, Mike Gonzalez. He's senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation, a new book out today, earlier this week, Black Lives Matter, the making of a new Marxist revolution. He's been on the program before. And Mike, welcome back to the program. So good to have you.
Hey, Tony, great seeing you. Yeah, the book came out 2 days ago.
Let's talk about this. This Marxist agenda that has found its way into every aspect of American society. It's in the classrooms we were talking about earlier with the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. What's driving this?
Well, it's being driven, as I write in my book, BLM, the making of a new Marxist revolution, was driven by Black Lives Matter, by the year that we had in 2020, where seemingly all our institutions gave up and surrendered and said, yes, we're going to invite Marxism into our classrooms and our workplaces, our corporations, our houses of worship. And it happened because a group of Marxists, a self-proclaimed Marxists, this is not me saying them, they call themselves Marxists, they manipulated the feelings of Americans. We saw there was a harrowing 9-minute video of the awful death of George Floyd, and they were able then to translate that into the narrative that America is systemically racist, and not just the criminal justice system, but all of America is systemically racist, and thus the entire system must be changed, and all the structures and all the institutions, because of course we're also institutionally and structurally racist. They're trained. Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi, but especially the first two, were recruited into Marxism and were trained into Marxism, and I explain all that in my book.
Two questions for you as you laid out exactly what occurred when we saw what happened in Minnesota, and then we saw thousands of demonstrations, over 600 riots that took place in the country. Very little pushback initially. Why was that? Why were people afraid to push back on this? And then the second aspect, it does appear now that people know what's going on. They are pushing back. Is that true?
Yes, two things. The no pushback by the media and the political class continues to today. And there's a good reason for that. There are many reasons, but I'll give you the top ones. Black Lives Matter is a wonderful concept. I subscribe to the concept. I don't even say all lives matter. Obviously, all lives do matter, but I think it's important to say all lives matter because African Americans have gone through periods of history that have been harrowing, experiences that none of us have gone through. That is a wonderful concept, and it convinced many people. That combined with the video of George Floyd's agonizing death. And then the media, which should have known better, because they know all the stuff that I have in my book it's open, freely available, openly available. I quote them principally. I quote leftist sources principally. But they decided not to report on it. The media never covered Black Lives Matter. They covered for them. The politicians as well, both parties, are very afraid to talk about Black Lives Matter because that is the title, Black Lives Matter, and they're much happier with talking about Antifa. You hear conservative Republican politicians denouncing Antifa. Antifa is a really easy target, but Antifa is violent, sure. But it's just it pales in comparison to the power that Black Lives Matter has. Black Lives Matter has a curriculum being taught across the country. Black Lives Matter has bills in Congress. But I don't want to digress. You said that there is now a recognition. Yeah, it's now at the level of the American people. The American people, the grassroots, has seen the critical race theory that's being taught to their children, and the critical race theory training programs that are being implemented in their corporations. And they're saying, no, absolutely not. We don't support this, and we're going to oppose this. And they're very vocally going to boards of education meetings, and they're very vocally telling HR to go shove it, or getting legal foundations to sue, or they're at least going to whistleblowers. So that is the phenomenon that I see: a media that has become complicit, a political class that refuses has lacked the courage to do what's right, and an American people that, as you know very well, are exceptionally attached to liberty.
Mike, is it possible that some in the media and in the political class aren't saying things because BLM actually is serving their purposes of advancing this leftist agenda?
Well, obviously, if you're a far leftist member of Congress, if you're Cori Bush or Ayanna Pressley or AOC or I would
say even Nancy Pelosi.
The reason I hesitate to get overly political is that I don't do party politics, but I also must go back to emphasizing I'm really disappointed with conservative politicians. I'm a conservative, as you know, so are you, and I'd like to see a more robust exposure of this, a more robust opposition. The country's on the line. What they want, and I'm quoting Alicia Garza, one of the main leaders and founders of Black Lives Matter, I'm quoting her, is to dismantle the organizing principle of society, to dismantle the way we're organized. That is everything, Frank. People who are watching this at home in their living rooms, if you want to have everything dismantled, your son's little league team, and the way you go about everything, the American way of life, then go ahead, don't do anything. But if you're troubled by that, then you're scandalized. Well, you should be.
And that specifically targets the family structure, as well as organized religion. That is in there as well. Mike, we're going to run out of time. I want you to be able to tell people where they can get a copy of the book.
Amazon. It's selling well. It's in the top 10 in several important categories. There you have it. BLM: The Making of a New Marxist Revolution. Or get it from Heritage, or get it from your bookstore. But Amazon will get it to you. I know that some people don't like Amazon, but BLM: The Making of a New Marxist Revolution.
Earlier today on Amazon, I think it was #1. So it's doing quite well. It's informing people, and I appreciate you coming on today to talk about it.
Thank you, Tony. I really appreciate what you do. Thanks for what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you.